Hi everyone, welcome back to this new video. Today I'm testing this GPU. This right here is an MSI Radeon HD 6950. This card was released back in December of 2010 for around $360 and it comes clocked in at 800 MHz. This card also has 2GB of GDDR5 memory which comes clocked in at 1250 MHz. This card also has 1408 shading units, 88 TMUs, 32 ROPs and it supports up to DirectX 11. Let's find out what this GPU can still do in 2021. So first it's time to unbox this card. Like you can see, this card was packaged very well. Just look at how much packing material was used around the card. I'm very happy to see this. After taking off all the packing material, here is the card. The first thing that I noticed is just how heavy this card is, weighing in at just over 1 kilogram. The first thing that I will do is take the GPU apart so I can clean it since it looks kinda dusty. And like you can see, the thermal paste is completely hardened, so it's good that I'm cleaning it. Here is a before and after comparison of all the parts. Time to apply some new thermal paste and put the cards back together. With the card back together, time to look at the fan. This card is a blower style and as such only has one fan. This is how the card sounds in idle. This is how it sounds during gaming. And this is how it sounds at full speed. This card has these red stripes along the back and the top, and I think that this looks pretty cool. For power, this card has two 6-pin power connectors and two mini display ports, one HDMI port and two DVI ports for video out. This card also has a switch for the dual BIOS, so you could flash it to an HD 6970. I won't do that though, because I've already made a review about the HD 6970. Time to put the card into my PC. This right here is my test system and it features an Intel Core i7-3770K, 12GB of DDR3 RAM and an Asus Sabertooth Z77 motherboard. Time to boot up the PC with this card installed. With the PC now running, time to install some drivers. Time for some benchmarks, starting off with Userbenchmark. This benchmark told me that the i7 was performing above expectations, while the HD 6970 was performing as expected. Time for the next benchmark, Heaven. On the high quality preset, this card got an average FPS of 40.7 and a score of 1026. The other benchmark that I used was PerformanceTest. In this benchmark, the card got a score of 2516 in the 3D graphics mark. Time to test some games. Starting off with Minecraft, with a mix of medium and high settings, this card got an average FPS of 106, with 1% lows of 38 FPS and 0.1% lows of 3 FPS. This game is definitely playable. Moving on to Roblox. On the highest settings, this card got an average FPS of 60, with 1% loads of 48 FPS and 0.1% loads of 2 FPS. Roblox is also perfectly playable. Freddy Fazbears Pizzaria Simulator is perfectly playable on this card, getting around 60 FPS almost everywhere. Ultimate Custom Night was also perfectly playable, but with a card like this, that comes as no surprise. Euro Truck Simulator 2 also ran good with a mix of medium and high settings. In the end, this card got an average FPS of 40, with 1% loads of 29 FPS and 0.1% loads of 0 FPS. Bus Simulator 12 was kind of playable. Using medium settings, this card managed to get an average FPS of 29, with 1% loads of 10 FPS and 0.1% loads of 2 FPS. CSGO was more than playable. On the highest settings, this card got a max FPS of 486 in the benchmark, while usually hovering around 100 FPS. In game I got around 150 FPS, making for a great experience. BeamNG Drive was surprisingly playable on the lowest settings. On these settings, the card managed to get an average FPS of 77, with 1% loads of 39 FPS and 0.1% loads of 32 FPS, which makes for a more than playable experience. On low settings, Bus Simulator 16 was also playable. The card managed to get an average FPS of 53, with 1% loads of 17 FPS and 0.1% loads of 4 FPS. In PC Building Simulator, I had to turn down the settings to the lowest and the resolution to 1600 by 900, but after that, this game became perfectly playable. The card got an average FPS of 58, with 1% loads of 18 FPS and 0.1% loads of 11 FPS. On the lowest preset, Fortnite was also perfectly playable. The card got an average FPS of 95, with 1% loads of 31 FPS and 0.1% loads of 14 FPS. And the last game that I tested was GTA 5. With a mix of medium and low settings, this card got an average FPS of 50, with 1% loads of 32 FPS and 0.1% loads of 24 FPS, which made for a great experience. Time to uninstall the drivers and shut the PC down. Now, what do I think of this card? Well, in my opinion, this card is perfectly usable in 2021. Especially with the GPU shortages, this card is perfect to use if you're waiting to buy a new GPU but you don't have integrated graphics, or if those integrated graphics are bad. Although being a blower style card, I have found this card to stay pretty quiet for a blower card, although at full speed it's more of a vacuum than a GPU fan. The best thing about this card is if you would want to, you could flash this card to an HD 6970 for more performance, so if you're looking for a good and cheap GPU in 2021, this GPU might be one for you. And with that, this video comes to an end. Thanks so much for watching, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye!